Do I need that? Yeah, probably do. Yeah. Okay. So my name is Robert Schadewinkel, and I work for the Brook Sanctuary. And in this short presentation, because this one, remember, is a short 10-minute one, I'm gonna just briefly talk about what this community-driven restoration project has achieved since I joined it, which is about 4 years ago, and also like to talk briefly in the end what this Brook Sanctuary or how this sanctuary is different to all the other fenced sanctuaries in the country, and what our unique features are, and also have a bit of an outlook in the future with all its challenges and opportunities. Can you hear me without this thing?
Robert, can you put it like you?
Okay, that's the answer then. You can't. Yes. So briefly, I just realized I'm probably for some people not from Nelson, obviously. So just briefly outline what this objective of this actual very ambitious, and also just point out it's a community-led project is. So our ambition or our goal is to restore the 690 hectare of largely mature hill and mountain beech forest to a state as close as possible to pre-human state. And we all acknowledge there are a lot of limitations to that, because we don't have more anymore, and who we are, and all these kind of things. But nevertheless, this is an ambitious goal, so I thought I'd put that out there. So one of our big benchmark achievements is the completion of the fence in 2016. And that's when I started to join the project. Then a year and a half later, we carried out the eradication of all pest species, and I think we had 16 different pest species in the sanctuary, which was completed in summer 17 and 18. Then having a fence and the eradication completed, that's when really the work starts, I have to say, and that was a big learning curve for all of the sanctuary. You might think the fence is there, the pests are gone. Now we achieved the hardest part, but that's when it really starts. And that was, of course, even made harder or amplified by having the mega beech mast last year. So we now are still in that process of getting through this really difficult time where we have got extremely high pest pressure on the outside of the fence. And so biosecurity is basically a constant threat, and you may wonder what that means for us, because this is a fence as well, a predator-proof or a predator fence, pest fence, but it's small, it's flat, and no trees around it, so that's easy. Our fence is more like that, so 14 kilometers through very steep hill country. We have got an altitude range of over 800 meters, and a lot of mature trees on each side of the fence, of course. And I have to move it a bit over so I can see. And this is what our everyday work basically looks like. I mean, we don't have a breach every day, of course, but when it happens, these guys, all volunteers by the way, rush out within like hours, usually like 2 or 3 hours of a breach happening, and this is probably an hour after they started repairing the fence, and another hour later, that fence is basically back in place. And this is absolutely crucial for us to get out there and close these gaps when they occur, especially during the beech mast, of course. Then another aspect is the continuous monitoring or detection work to see whether anything managed to crawl into or climb into the sanctuary and establish which in the sanctuary without us noticing. So, these two rodent or rat detection dog teams here just about ready to go into the sanctuary and do their work. By the way, like these little dogs, their legs are only that long. They walk 25 kilometers a day, and so do, of course, the handlers. And that's only possible because our tracking network is at a very good state. We have 130 kilometers of bench tracks, so otherwise that wouldn't be possible. And very briefly, this is our tracking network. We're talking about infrastructure here. This is over 2,600 monitoring stations and over 3,500 detection devices in the sanctuary. So what have we achieved since in the last 4 years? And in Europe and in the Americas and other places all over the world, we all know if you protect habitat, nature usually sorts itself out. But as we know, New Zealand is very different, and here, we can have vast tracts of intact forest, but it's still void of bird life. And other native species, of course, as well. So what really are the outcomes of not just suppressing, but completely removing pest species and keeping them out of the Brook Sanctuary? So this is still early days, but we have not noticed a recovery of forest floor vegetation. So five-finger was completely void under the canopy. It was completely bare ground, eaten out by deer. Now we've got like basically a lawn that is hip high of five-finger. Mistletoe has been recovering, and we have the sightings of Nelson green gecko, which obviously has been hanging on. But this is the first 2 confirmed sightings of Nelson green gecko in the Brook Sanctuary. And South Island robins have expanded in their range, and they're now coming much closer, and they have been hanging on in the high altitude, and now we're seeing them lower in the sanctuary as well. And we've got an increase of bird life. And this graph here is showing the development of our 5-minute bird counts that have been carried out for the last 10 years. And the green results there are before, sorry, the blue ones are before the drop, and the green one is the ones after the drop. So with the 5-minute bird counts, as we know, this is not really a trend, but at least we're seeing some positive signs there. And the same here can be said with bellbirds. It's early days, of course, but it's looking positive. And it's always nice to see our observations in the field are also reflected in the data. And thanks, Catherine, very much for putting them together for me late last night. I'm gonna skip that slide. Okay, we've got 2 minutes left. I'd just like to talk about the uniqueness of our sanctuary. Got too many things in my hands. So what makes our sanctuary different, or what's the point of difference of our sanctuary compared to others like our one? So as you can see, our sanctuary is very close to the city center, so it's only 4 kilometers as a crow flies from the cathedral to our sanctuary. But you can also see we've got a lot of backcountry bordering our sanctuary. And this is the green shaded area is part of the 166,000 hectares of Mount Richmond Forest Park. And in between, we then also have council-administered conservation estate. And this is quite unique and quite special, because other sanctuaries in the country, they are either surrounded by dairy farms, or suburbia, or in the best case, by lifestyle blocks and a bit of forestry and forest remnants, native bush remnants. So this is a real opportunity, I think, and that makes me really excited, which was one of the reasons why I wanted to do the job here. This gives an opportunity to have the species that are now recovering in our sanctuary, and also or any future translocations and reintroductions to our sanctuary, can then spill out, and the birds can go into the native habitat, the natural habitat, rather than ending up in the dairy country or in suboptimal habitat. They will, of course, also spread at their pleasure into the city, so that effect is, of course, there as well. So, just can imagine that the opportunities also beyond just ecosystem restoration, to be able to go tramping, in overnight tramp, and you might see kaka in the future, maybe even orange-spotted parakeets one day. So that is, I think, a great opportunity, and but it is an opportunity, but it also comes with challenges, because this area that you can see there does not achieve, it doesn't get any predator control. No predator control is carried out in those areas, and as I can tell you, and as you can probably tell from the map there, this would require landscape scale pest control to achieve that. So yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. I hope this shows the kind of uniqueness of our sanctuary, and I think there is a lot of potential, both for the urban restoration side of things, and on the other hand, the vast conservation estate that is bordering us on 80% of our boundary. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Any questions?